Hey everybody, MarikoOkuri here. Well, June 21st. Uh, Backers of Mighty No.9 finally got the chance to play the game ahead of time. Or, not really ahead of time, but they probably got it earlier than everyone else did in America. And, yeah, Mighty No.9 did not release pretty well with reviews ranging from 5.5s to 6 out of 10s. And I can after at first I didn't see why when I was first playing it, but that was only because I played for like a few minutes, to see if it was how it is, and if it works well with me, seeing as like the previous time I played this game was the beta version, and I couldn't really play that on my PC because my computer's not strong enough for it, with all the fancy graphics and everything that was going on with it. Now that I finally got a chance to actually play the game properly with the Wii U, with no constraints from graphics, I after I sat down for a bit, recorded all this footage for about an hour or so, and that might not be like long enough to have proper thoughts about this game, but from what I've already saw or what I've seen so far, yeah, I'm kind of a little discouraged about this. As a big Mega Man fan, and by the way, this whole entire video is going to be done a little bit unscripted, as in like there's going to be a lot of like silent screw ups with me talking sometimes, as I'm also looking through the gameplay footage that I recorded, to give me some ideas of like what I need to talk about. But anyways, let's continue on. Mighty No.9, and these are my thoughts, by the way. If it sounds like I might you have a different view on some of the things that I criticize or some of the things that I enjoy about this game, there are some things I do enjoy about this game. That's fine. Just don't try to push your opinion hard when I'm just trying to give my thoughts on it. I'm not saying that I speak for everyone. A lot of people are very mixed on this game. Even fans of Mega Man and Mighty No.9, or like people who are excited about this game, they're still mixed on it, whether they liked it or not. But these are just my thoughts. As a fan of Mega Man, the Mega Man series, Mega Man X, Mega Man Battle Network, not really much of Mega Man Zero or ZX, but still play them either way. Mighty No.9 sounded like a really fun and really innovative, or not too innovative. It was still the same formula as such, just a little bit of new features added into it. But hearing that this is supposed to be the successor to Mega Man, or at least the spiritual successor, I was really excited for this game. And after playing through the game for an hour or so, I've already got upset, or not like frustratingly upset with the game, but like disappointedly upset. The first thing I want to point out is that before I say anything about this or any of my complaints, people should note that Kenji Inafune has personally, in an interview, said that he takes full responsibility, and he knows that this game did not come out as good as he wanted it. This game is, for all the faults that it has, it's from, and this is if you at least have some idea of how game design works, or at least like know a little bit of it, it takes time to actually work through a game completely. And Kenji Inafune personally took responsibility for, or like the blame for, how my No.9 came out. And the main reason why it came out this way is that, if you recall, Mighty No.9, or after Kenji Inafune left Capcom, he decided to make his own company, or a game company, to make Mighty No.9, and he was really excited to finally work outside of Capcom, or like basically have complete control over it instead of having to you know, rely on Capcom basically. And that was a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. And this is and it's also the reason why this happened with Mighty No.9. The problem is he was really ambitious for his project, and that's why he had like so many stretch goals. Especially what's the main focus is the ability, or the plan to have all platforms have Mighty No.9. The Wii U, PS3, Xbox 360, PS4, Xbox One, PS Vita, PS Vita, and I think, if I remember correctly, also 3DS, if I'm not wrong. Those are a lot of platforms to work on, and he admits that that having to work on multiple platforms at once is the reason why, not only for the delays, but also for why the game came out so poorly. Because when he works at Capcom, or whenever he makes a game at Capcom, whenever games are needed to be ported, as in, for example, Resident Evil 4, those games, or at least their ports, are handled by, you know, other companies to, you know, help with the porting process. You know, make things, you take the base game and then have that being worked on to be ported onto other consoles. You know, change some things so that way it can work on other consoles. All the versions of Mighty No.9, they were all made with one, or they were all made at the same time. They weren't like they made one base game and then worked on porting it. They actually worked on each version of the game separately. As in, like, say they've finished the PS3 version. Okay, so now they got to work on a PS4 version. From not from the beginning per se, but like pretty much took much more time to do, since they had to start from like a very far back point. It wasn't from like, now that we have this base game, I just need to change a few things in order to make it work on the PS4. With that being said, now that we understand like why this game came out poorly, or not poorly, but like didn't come out to what a lot of people expected, this is where, you know, I can point out all the problems that's plaguing this game, that's keeping it from being at least like a very good, or a very decent game, at least for a lot of people. The first thing that I noticed, and by the way, before I say anything, another thing I need to say before I say anything else, I got the Wii U version, and I do plan to do a Let's Play of Mighty No.9, broken or not. The only thing is that I'm waiting until they fix the Wii U version, because apparently the Wii U version has a tendency to brick the Wii U. So I'm just gonna keep my copy of the game shelved, or like not touched in my, because it's digital, not touched in my Wii U until they release an update to the game. You know, possibly fixing the problem. Those problems being, not besides bricking the Wii U, some lag in the game in certain points, especially in the Vermilion Destroyer DLC, or Ray DLC, and a little bit of lag in certain cutscenes, as well as long load times between general options, as well as respawning after you die. So note that I've seen that these problems do not show up in the other versions of the games. So knowing that, loading times and system issues, they shouldn't be a problem for other versions except for the Wii U version. But we shouldn't, at least I don't keep that accountable for, you know, them, because again, porting processes probably cause that issue to happen. Anyways, now this is seriously where I'm going to put my thoughts on this. Okay, First thing that I noticed is that at first I thought the graphics were fine, and they are, at least like for the intro cutscene, or not intro cutscene, intro stage, it doesn't look that bad. I like the detail that they put, though it does, some things like the bus in the background, the bushes, and even a little bit of the flame effects, they do look pretty cheap, or as in like they look kind of, I don't know, basic, if that makes sense. I'm not one for graphics. I don't really care. I still enjoy playing old video games of 8-bit, 16-bit, or whatever, even like ones that don't even look that good. But this one, I can really notice that some of the graphics definitely feel pretty old, or like they look like they're from the PS2 era or so. But that's just a minor issue. That doesn't really affect doesn't really affect me playing the game. I played a lot of games that didn't have that many good graphics, and really didn't affect my enjoyment of the game. And the only time it is just only when it looks really bad, that, or like I can't really tell anything differentiate from certain things. But this one, it does the job. It does its jobs at least acceptably. Doesn't look that bad, but it's not great at either. Especially how Mighty No.9 looks, or Beck. From, if you look at the concept art for the game, it doesn't. Mighty No.9's model doesn't really kind of correspond with that model. His cheeks are huge, or at least like they kind of stick out, unlike the concept art, or at least like the design that they show in like promotional art and such. His arms kind of look like, I don't know, flask tubes, or flask glasses from, I don't know. They kind of just like are thin at the shoulders, and then they just like kind of grow out, and it doesn't. I don't know. Something about his arms just don't look good to me. His design in images look much better. Besides graphics, another thing I've got to point out: the voice acting is not that good. There's bad voice acting that it's good, so bad that it's good, but this one just doesn't seem that well. Like Mega Man 8 had some hilarious bad audio, or like bad voice acting, as well as Mega Man X4 with Zero and such. But this one doesn't really seem that good. I mean, like, the main one I hate the most is Call's voice. I mean, the voice actor is not that bad, but like the way it's presented, or as in like the way she speaks, I don't like that kind of robotic kind of feel to it. She just sounds like she's just a basic robot, or, well, I mean, that doesn't really help, but like, as in, Beck has more personality, at least in his voice. Even though it's not that good, or at least his voice acting is not that good, he has personality. There, you can see some of it in there. Where Call is just basically a simple, like, a simple AI, or like something that you would find like a speech, text-to-speech kind of program. She doesn't have any personality, and the thing is, some of the cutscenes or moments where she does talk, I can already imagine in my head how it would sound if like there was actually some more personality to her. Especially in the Ray DLC or the Vermilion Destroyer stage, I see so much potential for a personality in her voice acting, but she's stuck to that monotone computer voice, like that, like Mighty No.9. Your location is whatever. Like, I just didn't like it. Not to mention that a lot, even in the stage select screen, when you're about to start a stage, Dr. Sanda just goes, well then, are you all set? Like, he has to take some time just to like remember his line. And I don't know. And also, especially another one I can note is I forget what his name was. Let me see if I can roll back a little bit. Um, Mr. Graham. His I don't like how his presentation where he goes where he seems like a normal guy, and then like as soon as like his actual line starts, he's like, in this time. He's like trying to be all fancy talking, basically, but then he just goes back to normal. It's like that this isn't our fault, and then just goes back to we at Cherry died. That does not like flow well. I would have preferred if he just stick to like just speaking normally, or if he just sticks to being fancy. Even though I don't like the fancy pants kind of like presentation that he shows. But besides that, some of the characters do have good voice acting. Like Battalion, he definitely sounds like what you would think from a stereotypical like war kind of sold or colonel or sergeant. Dr. Sanda does pretty well, but not too. But sometimes he kind of drops the ball. But besides that, there's not that really much going for voice acting. Even another one I really don't like is Ray or Rachel or the robot that you fight in Vermilion Destroyer. Her again. I feel like the presentation is the problem. It's not the voice acting or the voice actor. It's just the way they present or like read their lines is just not good. I don't like it. Voice acting aside, another thing I don't like is a little bit of the stage or stage setup or okay, so I was able to defeat Battalion stage, the military base, fine. There wasn't that much a problem. Mainly because I actually played that level in the beta version, and it's still relatively the same. But after that, I tried going to my number 4 or seismic in the mines. And I already got upset with this level. I didn't even make it halfway through the stage. I already got upset with the level mainly because of one point where there is a extra life across, or no, not that point. There is a rock throwing enemy after the somewhat the drill or mole like enemies from the Mega Man series is. There's a platform that goes back and forth, and you have to dash to get through to the other side. The problem is with Beck's mechanic of grabbing onto ledges and trying to get up on top of them. There's a ceiling of spikes right above you. So if you jump or if you try to get on the platform too high, you're gonna die. So you have to actually tap the jump button to make sure that you don't jump too high and get on the platform without touching the spikes. After that, there's an enemy that throws rocks at you with some spikes right below, right in the opening where you're supposed to go. The thing is, if that enemy hits you while you're in midair, or even if you're standing right in front of it, the knockback knocks you all the way into the spikes. Mega Man X and the Mega Man games, they did have knockback, and there were issues of that where the knockback knocks you into like a pit or a floor of spikes. But at this point, the knockback was so much that it was able to make you fly right into the spikes. And even if you were able to get past that, the section where you're dropping down and grabbing onto ledges, the screen doesn't give you any, like, the camera doesn't go down enough to show you that there's a pit of spikes right below you. So you drop down two ledges, thinking, oh, okay, so I'm just gonna slowly descend down these ledges and get onto land. No, after the second ledge, you think to drop down and land or grab onto another ledge, but no, there's just a pit of spikes. And the only way you're gonna know that there's a pit of spikes there is that if you already died to those spikes already. That is not good design to have you die first and learn from your mistake. No, you're supposed to be able to, if you're cautious enough, you should be able to get through the stage without any problem, or at least know that there's going to be have some caution, or know that there's going to be a pit of spikes down there. Not blindly have someone die their first time there and learn from it. It's one thing to go through something and learn. If you do die from something that you are able to get through easily, or knew ahead of time to get through, but didn't know, or at least like, say like there's an enemy right in front of you and it's charging at you. If you were shooting at it and it didn't have it wasn't working, it's probably because you didn't hit its weak point. But as soon as you found out the weak point, it was too late. Like, at least, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that those spikes at the bottom should not have been there, or at least put another ledge there so the camera can show where those spikes are, so that way nobody is just blindly gonna lose a life on their first time. And besides those spikes, again, continuing from that point, you can see that there's like obvious problems just with that one section. And that's not even halfway through the stage. There is another one of those moving platforms, and it shows an opening where you can get some health pickups. Oh, well, obviously, maybe if I land on that and wait for a couple seconds, it'll go back. It will put in a position where I can dash through it and grab the health. But the problem is, if you get on that platform, again, this is the camera's problem, because when you first see that platform, you're gonna think, oh, maybe I should get on that instead of falling into the spikes. Now that I learned that, if you do that, the platform doesn't go left and right. It actually goes up and down, and if it goes up, it's gonna crush you. As soon as you see that platform, you imagine, or you think, oh, okay, let me just land on that. But if I don't know, this design doesn't made me upset, because I had to die multiple times until I could actually get through it, and by that point I just gave up on the level and tried a different one, which comes to Mighty number I believe 2, wasn't it? The ice one, cryosphere, yeah. Mighty number 2, cryosphere. I think a lot of people pointed this out when they first played this stage. The dirty water section at the very beginning of the stage, not a good idea. It should have been at least like much more clear, because looking back at the footage, I can barely tell what the enemies in that section were, because like I can barely make them out because of the how kind of dim or like dark the dirty water is. And even then, it was kind of hard to actually maneuver the platforms at the very beginning, before you enter like this, I don't know, sand or dirt kind of section, before you get to like the sea ground or whatever. I don't know. It was really dark that I almost didn't see that screwdriver or whatever kind of spinning enemy at the very beginning. After that, there were some reminiscence of Bubble Man or Dr. Wily Stage 2, you know, the blind water jump with spikes. That one was fine. I have no problems with it, but I don't know, with the way it goes, it seems kind of hard to move around since you move actually kind of slowly. I mean, in Mega Man 2, it was also, your movement was also kind of slow, but like as you're dropping down, it got a little bit faster, and your movement isn't like hindered too much in water, like moving left and right. In this one, it's actually much slower. So if you notice that you're about to run into spikes, it's probably already too late, because your movement is too slow to actually like get out of the way. And when you get to the ice section, the ice physics with platforming was not that good. I mean, the thing is that with this game, it's trying to make you use more of the dash mechanic that they have, and with that, it kind of makes it hard to actually do good platforming on this in this level with the ice physics. Besides, like the slow startup when it comes to actually moving left and right, Beck's jump doesn't really make it easier. Doesn't really make it easy to actually move or like position yourself easily onto the platforms. Not to mention, Beck can't actually grab onto the ledges in the ice in this level, or at least like in the ice section of the level. So there was a section, if I remember correctly, there was a section with a pit of or like the floor was completely covered in spikes, and you had to jump across tiny platforms. And the thing is that you also have to deal with enemies that are stationed there, where you have to get rid of them by dashing into them. I mean, you don't have to, but when the mechanic makes you have to destabilize the enemies and then dash into them to get points, as well as possibly help fill up your charge for your somewhat E-tank kind of function. It's kind of hard to reposition yourself after you dash, because you move very quickly and you don't know exactly how far you're going to go with your dash. And as soon as you figure out, or at least as soon as you land on something and you're trying to position yourself, the slipperiness of the ice physics kind of make it hard to platform on such tiny spots. Not to mention, if you get hit by an enemy, that knockback, instead of getting off or being knocked off a platform and grabbing onto a ledge, since you can't grab onto a ledge, your first thought is to dash or try to jump, but by that point you're already too low, or at least like off the platform, that you can't get back onto it, and you're just gonna have to fall into the spikes. I don't know, something about this level design just doesn't really work, or at least like those are the only two stages I was actually able to do, or not, three stages that I was actually able to do: military base, the water factory, and the mine. I didn't touch any of the other stages because I was already done with playing for that hour of footage that I played, and I already got what the rest of the game is probably going to be like. I'm not saying that that's exactly how all the levels are, that they're all badly designed, but as far as like, if I was to play this game for just a little bit and enjoy it, I was already done. I would probably say you should probably send this back and work on it a little bit more. Besides that, the only other thing I can really judge about this game is its story, or at least like its presentation of story. I will start with two examples. One is the cutscene after you beat one of the Mighty Numbers, and the other one is when you're doing the Vermilion Destroyer stage. Spoilers for, story if you actually care about the story of this game, which it's, at least the way that they present it, I don't know if you actually would care about it. For example, after the first Robot Master, after the first Mighty Number is destroyed, it shows Dr. White and Professor Sanda, or I think it's just Dr. Sanda, talking with each other about what happened before they got to the, or at least what Dr. White has to say about, or saw that on his way into the lab. Basically, the intro level. He talks about how Graham mentions that it's Dr. Blackwell's fault, and then they start going about Dr. Blackwell. I mean, that can't be. He's a genius, but he couldn't be behind this. Why not? By the way, who is Dr. Blackwell? We just only heard about his name, but we know nothing about him. And then they mention about some backstory about him trying to his last plot was to destroy every robot in America. Okay, when did this happen, or why did this happen? And then they just like stop, or they just stop talking about it, and just go back to to the main game. The problem is that like they try to make a story about, like, at least I know I haven't played enough of the game to like maybe get the rest of the story, but presenting a villain, or at least about a character that has some backstory, but not talking in depth about him, like why is he in prison, or at least like what exactly happened with this previous plot to destroy all robots in America. How could it not be Dr. Blackwell? We don't even know who he is. We need at least like some detail, like at least like a little bit more backstory than just, oh, it couldn't have been him because he's in prison. I mean, he did this before, but well, I mean, we don't know this. I just, that is not good presentation, or at least like not a good introduction to our villain, or at least like to the story that we're trying to build in this. Or at least they could have just said, they could have been like, you know, he said that it might have been Dr. Blackwell. You know what? We're not exactly sure. So I think until we know for sure, let's just keep on going. But then they just put all this exposition about his past work, and now say that there's some similarity to this, to his last plot, but we don't even know who he is. And then there's Vermilion Destroyer's backstory, talking about a saying that this person hacked their location data, and says, or we get like a clip where it says, so Dr. Santa is hiding here. Then after we go into the stage, we find that there's a robot there that's, you know, looks like it destroyed a bunch of other robots. Cuts our communication off, and then just like starts running off, and we have to go after him, or after her. It's a she. I was surprised by that. Afterwards, we get another clip where we get another meeting where she's like, ugh, why am I alive? Oh, well, that's actually kind of interesting. I actually wonder why she's asking that. So we continue on, and then we get to the point where we actually find her at like some sort of computer looking for answers from Dr. White, or at least looking for answers and trying to find out where Dr. White is to get information from him. But after Beck mentions that he knows Dr. White and challenges him to, or tells him to tell her where he is, you start a fight. After you defeat her, she just says that she starts mentioning about her falling apart, feeling cold, and needs to feed, and she just disappears. After you get your status for like the level, there's communication returns and is like, Beck, please respond. We have connection. Beck, what happened? I'm fine. There was a robot. There was a strange robot with a red cloak. A red cloak? Well, you're gonna have to. We'll talk about this when you get back home. And they never mention it again. I understand that this is like DLC, or at least is hinting to the fact that, you know, there might be like something secret about this. But if they never talk about it, or at least like mention anything else about it, it would be interesting if, like, you know, they drop some hints, like saying who, at least like a little bit, like maybe it's a prototype robot. It was a strange robot, or at least tell Beck, you know, Beck, you should probably stay away from that robot as much as you can. They just go back to like nothing ever happened. I mean, you get the ability to play as Ray now, but like, unless there's some story, if you play through Ray, if you play levels with Ray, I don't see what was the point of that. But all right. Now, from I think that's pretty much all most of my complaints so far. I don't know anything about the weapons because I only got two weapons: the DLC weapon and the Battalion's weapon, which so far it's not that bad. It's actually like a form of a crash bomb where after you latch it onto an enemy or a wall, you can choose to blow it up remotely. Or no, I guess it's not like crash bomb. It's more like a remote mine from Mega Man and Base. But anyways, the only things I can say is that This is not a horrible game. It definitely needs some improvement with its I don't know presentation. Like I don't know if they can do it through some sort of a patch or something. But I feel like this game had a lot of potential, but it was not. A lot of people want to say that it's for a very expensive or very hugely backed game. You know, I forget exactly how much it was. Like I think $250,000. I think I forget. But for such a large amount of money that was put into this project and how it came out, a lot of people want to say that Kenji Inafune was just doing a cheap job in order to just get money out of Mega Man fans. But as far as I can see from the game and from what's been meant, or at least like his response to it, it's more the fact of like he was just too ambitious for this game and it didn't come out as well as it should have been. Like now that he was finally out of Capcom's kind of grasp of like or chains or such in terms of like development, when he was finally able to have free control with developing a game, he was too ambitious with his idea, putting multiple systems on his list, a lot of stretch goals like co-op, special stages and such, and just put too much on his plate for creating this game. And when it came to actually making the game, he like probably halfway through where the first delay for the game happened, he realized that he was too ambitious, and obviously this started like a chain of events of how pretty much everybody he made too much of hype for this game. And with all that hype and all that ambition, he kind of painted himself into a corner with multiple ports of the game having to do each one individually instead of working on a ground base and then making all the ports with little tweaks and such for each console. A lot of promises of like modes and such, and physical items and such to be released to kickback starters. This project was just pretty much the result of too much hype, too much ambition, and just too much expectation. So, would I say Mighty No.9 is a horrible game? Not at all. Like it definitely has problems, but that could be also said for a lot of other video games, like especially even the Mega Man series. There were Mega Man X7, Mega Man 5, 8 had a little bit of problems. It just shows that that a lot of games did have problems, and this one is no different. But the problem is like with all the expectation and a lot of the problems that this game had, it shows that there was a lot on his plate, and with that, this game did not come out with enough, with enough time. We're not time, but like not enough, not enough going into it, as having to work on multiple ports of it are just. It's just like it is a horrible place to be in when having to make one simple game, or at least one game in general. but I would still recommend getting the game and trying it out. It's not that bad. The challenges are kind of fun. The music's actually pretty great as well. The gameplay is, or at least the dash mechanic, it definitely is not a full-fledged Mega Man game. At least, like, if you're looking for a simple platforming game with Mega Man-esque style kind of gameplay, I wouldn't really say it's the perfect recommendation for it. I will say it does. There's still a lot of running and gunning with a lot of really quick action. Going through battalion stage, it actually was pretty fun. But I was able to get through that level, shooting down enemies, dashing into them, and then just continuing on. It definitely is not like a slow-paced game, or at least like its mechanics don't make it too doesn't try to slow you down at any point. It's just more of the fact of there's just another step to the process of defeating enemies, and if you know how to do it, or at least how to actually get through it with proper, or not proper, but if you know how to deal with enemies Mighty No.9's way, it's actually kind of fun to shoot down through or at least destabilize a bunch of enemies and then just dashing through all of them and getting 100% combos, and then gaining a health pickup or stocked health pickup that you can use for later. But personally, that's just my thoughts on the game. I feel like if they were able to make another Mighty No.9, which at this point I don't know if that's going to be possible, or at least it would have to be just like Mega Man 1 for the NES. The sales for the first game, or at least didn't show that much potential, but they were able to try again and get it right. I feel like that could be the case for Mighty No.9. I feel like if they took this game, if they took a stab at this game again with a sequel, but put much more time and played their cards correctly this time, they would actually be able to make a good game out of this, because there is potential for this game. It's just only their first attempt was not the greatest. But with that said, that's just my thoughts on the game. I'll definitely do a Let's Play of this game when the Wii U version is updated, or at least fixed, because I do not want to risk bricking my own Wii U in order to do the game, play through the game. But with that, thank you guys for listening. I'm sorry for this very lengthy video. I should probably... Oh my god, this is almost an hour-long video, but that's just my thoughts on the game. So, thank you guys for listening. I hope I didn't bore you too much. Hopefully this won't be a lot of editing work, and hopefully it's not too boring for you guys to listen, or wasn't too boring for you guys to listen to. But with that said, I will see you guys next time.